Iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ níṣẹ́ ilẹ̀ wa, ẹni kò ṣiṣẹ́ á máa jalè. Ìwé kíkọ láìsí ọkọ́ àti àdá kò ì pé o, kò ì pé o. Iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ níṣẹ́ ilẹ̀ wa, ẹni kò ṣiṣẹ́ á máa jalè.
How to go about agricultural practices, and that's what we do regularly, because at Soloka Multiventures Limited, your interest is our priority, and we want you to be happy so that we can be happy as well. Let me welcome you by saying, if you make profit, then we make profit too. We want to welcome you to today's episode of Soloka TV. My name remains Mark Oluwafemi, your regular host of this TV channel. We just want to give a brief recap of what we've done before. That was last week. We talked about certain things last week that we feel it will help our farmers in this period, this season. When I mean this season, dry season farming. And that has been our topic in the time past. We've been talking about dry season, dry season, dry season, and dry season. And today also we'll be talking about dry season farming. Last week we talked about cucumber cultivation in dry season, and today we'll be talking about tomatoes. Like we used to say, we are bringing this information to your notice just to help you, guide you, and also to support you in your agricultural practice. We are not saying we know all, but the little that we think we know, we want to share that across to all our farmers, all our customers, such a way that you can have a better result than what you've been having before. So when we share the knowledge across, everybody gets better, then we get better too. Thank you very much again for staying tuned to this channel. Thank you very much for joining us again. I want to sincerely apologize for coming in a bit late today due to some technical issues that we actually faced. But the truth is this, like we promised, we'll always come. Even though we come late, but we'll always come to tell you one thing that will help you improve your agricultural practices. And that's why we are here today, to let you know that you can do better than what you're doing now. If only you can pay attention to certain details. Those details are some of the things we are bringing to your notice. And I want to tell you, if all these things could be put together, then the result, good result, is inevitable. Thank you once again for staying tuned to this channel. And today, we'll be talking about tomatoes. Now, when we talk about tomatoes, there's no special thing we want to talk about tomatoes that you don't know before. What we just want to talk about is how you go about it to get a better result. How you can harness those information you think you know to actually achieve a good result, much more better than what you've been doing before. If you check our pages, about 2 weeks back, we had a program from East West Company. East West Company are a company that produce seeds as well too. They have tomato seeds. We'll be talking about some of their varieties today. Now, the seminar we had with East West with the farmers just covered a lot of things that has to do with our products. We talk about tomato cultivation also inside. You can check our platform. You see the video there. You can watch. You can listen and see the things that we mentioned about tomato, which will actually help you have good yield in your farm. Today we'll be talking briefly on tomatoes, and we'll talk about one or two things that we feel we can actually add to the things you know. We know you know about it, but we can actually add one or two knowledge to it. First of all, you need to know that planting spacing for tomato is of a great essence in tomato cultivation, because if tomato is not having good aeration, the tomato will not yield for you well. Please take note. The planting spacing required for tomato should be followed, so you can have good aeration, so you can have good yield. Because if your tomato is well aerated, then you have more fruits. If your tomato is well aerated, at least to some extent, it will contribute drastically to the reduction of flower abortion on your field. Take note. If your tomato is well aerated, it will contribute to the reduction of flower abortion in your field. And also, you need to take note of something. Those are some of the challenges that tomato used to have. We'll be talking about it today briefly, just for you to know. But we have some basic things I want to talk about. First of all, if you want to cultivate tomato, please take note. Your tomato needs proper nursery stage. If your tomato is not well nursed, having that yield of within 50 to maybe 70 tons per hectare is inevitable. If your tomato is not well nursed, your yield will automatically be lost from that early stage. If you want to have good results from tomato, you have to do it well from beginning. Because if you don't do it from the beginning, no matter how the quantity of fertilizer you put on the field, it will still not bring the yield to maximum. Please take note. So that is why nursery stage for your tomato is very, very important. You need to do a proper nursery. I'm sure we talked about how to raise proper nursery in one of our episodes. We talked about you have to do your land, your use the nursery tray, get the cocoa pit, or you get the cocoa pit, or use the potty soil. We talked about how you have to add manure, or you add nutrients to whatever your planting, your nursery planting medium is. Then we talk about how you have to take care of the plant itself at the nursery stage in terms of controlling the chemical, controlling the pests, using the pesticide, in terms of ensuring the place is well saturated, in terms of moisture, ensuring nutrients is being supplied to the plant adequately, ensuring you monitoring the plant to ensure that it is photosynthesized well. Perhaps due to place you are placing it, this is where you place them because of sunlight, nutrients, and water. So most of all these things that we just mentioned now are very important that you need to put in place to ensure you have good results. Because when you have good nursery, it has a long way to go in your production of tomatoes. And if you're a tomato farmer, I'm sure you could notice the times you do your nursery and you have good nursery outcome, you will see how the result on the field looks like. The plant will be very healthy and the plant will actually fruits for you more. So we want you to pay attention to your nursery. Majorly, how you do your nursery. I know most people tell you, okay, fine, if I don't have nursery trays, can't I do my nursery on the ground? Yes, you can. But we advise, make sure that the ground where you want to put your nursery has good soil. Ensure the soil is well nourished. In terms of, are you applying manure or using fertilizer? And we actually run brief of some of the fertilizer you can actually use to raise your nursery. We talked about it in one of our episodes. You can check out one of our episodes. Those are the previous episode that we talked about that. You will see these things there. Then we talk about how to control your nursery. Please take note. When you have nursery, when you're doing your nursery for tomatoes, the first 10 days after you've sown the seed, you need to watch the plant closely. You will think the plant is healthy, but it might not be healthy. Most of the time, when our tomato is suffering from water stress at the nursery stage, it doesn't really show as much if you don't pay good attention to it. Because if you pay good attention, you find out that the stem is getting slimmer and is turning brownish. It's actually dehydrating gradually, but you will think it's still healthy. It is not healthy because it will not be visible just suddenly like that. It will come in gradually. You see the plant is actually wilting gradually, but you will think it's still healthy. Suddenly the leaf will just drop. Once the leaf drops, you find out the stem is also dried already. The stem has been dehydrating in a long time, in some days back. Please pay attention to that. When you're doing your tomato nursery, when your tomato sprouts, pay attention to tomato closely. Ensure the stems are succulent. You don't have to touch it. When you look at it closely, you know the stems are succulent. Then ensure you water it adequately. And we talked about in doing the type of raising nursery, we talked about you should be using your knapsack sprayer to water your nursery, so that you don't exhume the seed, so that you don't affect even the germinating plants at the nursery stage. Because if you're using watering can, the jet of the water will actually hit the nursery, actually push them to the side, bend them over, thereby damping will be occurring. I'm sure to those that are doing tomato nursery, you understand what I'm talking about. Damping do occur when you are raising nursery if it's not well taken care of. And damping, some people say, what causes damping? Damping is when you have excess water. But most of the time, the way you water also could actually affect the plant for damping to be occurring, because when you throw the water on the plant and the water push the plant to the side or bend it over to the soil again, then that part that is this part of the stem that is touching the soil back will start drying off. That's what happened. So please take note. Your nursery, use a nursery tray, get a proper planting medium. Is that the cocoa peat or the potty soil? If you're using cocoa peat, you can add manure to it, or you add soluble fertilizers to it. You fill your nursery tray, you sow one seed per hole. When you sow one seed per hole, you use your knapsack sprayer to water it adequately. It advised you water it in the morning and in the evening, this period where we are. The temperature is very high now, so it advised you water it early in the morning, then late in the evening you water it as well too. Please take note down before it sprouts. But once it starts sprouting, it's advised you water it adequately in the morning, and you know it will be placed under a shade. Under a shade where the breeze can blow through, then the sunlight too can come in, but it should not be placed under direct sunlight, else it will fry up the seed you've actually sown into the tray. Please take it down. So majorly, another thing we need to look into is your choice of seeds. Your choice of seeds also determines the health of your nursery. Most of the time, most people choose hybrid seed, which is the best. But some people ask the question, what happens if I grow tomato last year? Can't I remove the seed, keep the seed, and replant it? Yes, you can. But most of these hybrid seeds are the first generation seeds. The ones you are harvesting from your plant, they are harvesting from the seed they produced the previous year, are not first generation again, they're second generation. And by so doing, as the generation is going down the line, so is the yield is diminishing gradually. It is just like when you buy a bottle of drink and you drink half of the drink, you now add water to it. You know the drink gets lighter, so you know the quality is actually reducing. The same thing goes to our seeds too. If you are buying the fourth generational seeds, the yield is going to give you is going to be at maximum. But when you are harvesting the seed to replant, you're actually taking the second generation, the third generation. So as the generation is going down the line, the yield is reducing. And that's why most persons will be like, okay, fine, last year I did this tomato, I harvested about maybe 50 tons of tomato, but I used the seed again, but I got only 20 tons. What happened? Is it that the soil is not good again, or is it that my boys on the farm did not do what they have to do, or what happened? Or is it that pests attack the farm or whatever like that? Also, your choice of seed has a long way to go in your yield, because if you're using the second generational seed or the third generational seed, the yield you are going to have will be reduced. In some cases, it might reduce by 25%, some might reduce by 50%, as bad as that. Some can even reduce by 70%, which could be as bad as that. To some cucumber farmers, some people have if you've done cucumber like that before, you've experienced that. Sometimes cucumber drop by 50%. Perhaps on an acre, maybe you harvested 300 something bags when you use the F1 seed, the fourth generational seed. By the time you harvested the seed and replant, you might not get more than 100 bags on the same size of land. The question is this: why don't you use the fourth generational seed and have your yield? Because by so doing, you're going to spend the same time, the same size of land, the same inputs, but the yield will be 50% of the previous one. So that's why it's advisable that you use the first generational seed, so you can have the maximum yield you are expecting. So your choice of seed is very important as well too. So at Solacam Venture Limited, we have so many variety of seeds that are doing fantastically well that you can actually grow. To mention a few, we have from Easters, we have the Platinum, we have the Padma, we have Diva, then we have from Syngenta, we have Kilele, then from Harvest Field, we have Presido, we have Presido, Premium Super, and some other ones like that. So we have various kind of seeds. From Technism, we have Cobra, and some other ones like that. There are various kind of seeds, and these are first generational seeds. If you can use most of the first generational seed, you have yield from them. You might ask, which one can you recommend? All these seeds are F1. Most of these seeds are F1 seeds. Most of them are F1 seeds, and all of them have their characteristics. Most of the F1 seeds have been treated such a way to have resistance to certain things. All of them does not have the same characteristics. Some of them have the characteristics to resist drought. Some of them have like platinum now. Platinum is very good for dry season, not so good for rainy season. You could see that. Padma is very good for rainy season. That's in terms of east to west. There are some of them that have this kind of characteristics. Some of them have resistance to Danny. Some of them have resistance to Edros, which is one of the major challenge in tomato farming. Some of them don't have. Some of them do have. So most of these things are embedded in F1 generational seed. But by the time you actually start using the second generation, those things are no longer present. And that is why your farm will be susceptible to pest attack, fungal attack, and what have you. The attacks you did not experience in your first cycle when you use the F1 generational seed, you will experience them at the second generation. Because what you are using the second generational seeds, you're not using the fourth generational seed. So they will not be as strong, as vibrant, as resistant as the fourth generational seed. So these are some of the things you need to pay attention to. So we want to urge you, please pay attention to certain details that will actually make you lose a lot. Your time is very precious. So if you're going to spend the same time of 65 days, 70 days to nurse a particular plant to fruiting, why can't you have the best of that plant? Having the best of that plant is choosing the best seed that can actually make you have this plant. So talking about the nursery should stay minimum at least 4 weeks at the nursery stage. After you sow your seed, 4 weeks at the nursery stage. Within that 4 weeks, adequate care should be given to these nurseries so that they could give you good yield, good result at the end of the day. Adequate care, I mean, is watering it adequately, supplying nutrients through foliar. We have so many organic foliar fertilizers that you can be using. You can always mix it with your water, maybe once in a week or twice in a week. You spray with the plant. It also helps the plant to boost its growth. Then it makes the plant to be healthy, because the plant are at the early stage, so they are susceptible to any form of attack, because tender plants could be attacked by pests easily, unlike grown plants. So that's why you need to take care of them properly. You need to do a very good pest control. You need to ensure that you water the place adequately. Then you observe for fungi. At the nursery stage, you might not really have fungal attack, depending on when you're doing. If you're doing this period, you might not really have fungal attack. But you need to pay attention to the plant because of your mode of watering. Please take note. I'm not saying you're not going to have fungal attack at the nursery stage. It's a 50-50 chance that you can have fungal attack at the nursery stage. But if you do not pay attention to the plant, you might not notice it. But if you pay attention to the plant, you start seeing some abnormality in your nursery. Abnormality in the sense that you might just come to your nursery house today. You realize that one particular plant, the leaf on the particular plant just start changing to yellow. You start seeing pale yellow at a particular environment. But most of the time, one side of a tree can just give you pale yellow. So it's fungi. No, pay attention to it. You have to observe what happened. Is it that side is too exposed to sunlight, thereby evaporation rate there is higher, then the plant is being stressed because there's inadequate supply of water to the plant close to where the sunlight is very high? I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say now. So when the evaporation is too high, the temperature is very high, it will make the plant to suffer, thereby not having enough moisture to sustain. Then the plant will start changing color. Some of them might be nutrient deficiency. Perhaps when you do your mixing, there was not enough nutrient supply to that plant, or even when they were applying the foliar fertilizers, it doesn't get to them as much. Or perhaps you've not even applied foliar fertilizer at all, and you notice things like that. You need to pay attention to these things. When you see them, you will know what is the challenge. Now, when you see those things, you could understand what challenge could affect it. Because in one of our episodes, we talked about how to determine deficiency in our plants. Deficiency in our plant that we talked about in one of our episodes, we talked about how do you know if your plant is deficient in nitrogen, how do you know if your plant is deficient in potassium, how do you know if your plant is deficient in calcium, how do you know if your plant is deficient in magnesium, some other micro elements that are deficient in your plant. You need to know what signs this plant gives you to know whether they are deficient or not. So if you could not pay attention to this plant, you would not know. You will not see them. You will not notice them. They might be there, but you will not notice them at all. So these are some of the things we want our farmers to know, so that when you know all these things, when you see those traits, then you could know that, okay, fine, this thing is wrong with this plant, something is wrong with this plant, something like this is going on with this plant. So easily you could administer to them. Most of the time when you go to the hospital and you go to see a doctor, you don't ask you questions. The doctor is not a magician. When you enter, he tell you, you're having malaria. No. Or you're having typhoid. Or no, you're having stomach pain. No. The doctor will always ask you question. What happened? What are the symptoms that you notice? How are you feeling? Are you feeling pain? Can you stand up? Can you bend down? Can you lie down? They will ask you questions. That is what they're trying to examine you to actually tell you what the challenge is. The same thing we want you to understand, that if you understand what basic signs could affect your plant, then you will know what is wrong with your plant. So when you see some signs on your plant, maybe change in coloration, your plant start having a random pale yellow on the leaf. Some of them are not all of them are fungi. Some of them are deficient. Go, if you can check one of our that episode we did about 2 episodes back or 3 episodes back, we talk about how to identify most of these things on your farm, not just at your nursery stage, even at the grown-up plants on the field. When you understand all these things, then you'll be able to monitor and take good care of your nursery. So when you can do this adequately, all we've said, you water, you put foliar fertilizer, you control your pests, for the next 4 weeks, you will see, it will be evident that your plants are healthy. Because when you get there, you see how blossom the leaves are, full blown. You see the stem, very succulent, thick, not thin. You will see that the plant is healthy. So with this, when your nursery is healthy, then transplanting to the field will it will help the plant to actually thrive very well on the field. Then the plants actually give you that good result. And we will advise, we talked about it in one of our episodes, I'll talk about transplanting. Transplanting any plant you do nursery for, it advises you transplant in the evening, in the cool of the evening. And when you are transplanting, you water almost immediately. Reason is this: by the time you transplant, you know your plant is changing states. Your plant being at the nursery stage before, maybe in the nursery tray or on the ground, is changing its particular location to another place. So it is good that you transplant a plant in the evening. So when you transplant in the evening and water it immediately, within that time, from evening to the following morning before the sun will set, it gives the plant the room to actually get established, to get acclimatized with the new environment, and to start building resistance to drought on the field. Take note, when you transplant in the evening, it helps your plants to get acclimatized with the environment and also to get sustained, so that by the time the sun will set back in the morning around 9-10 a.m., the plant will have been well established. Thereby, the shock of changing of states will not affect the plant, and that's why your plant will not die. Most of tomato farmers, if you notice, when you transplant a tomato in the morning, before you come back in the evening, a lot of them will have withered, and by the following morning, not all of them will sustain. Because of what? The shock of the sun that sets on them has actually drained them. It has actually stressed them so that they cannot withstand it, and what happened? At the end of the day, they will die off. So those are some of the challenges we are facing. So if you transplant in the evening, the plant has the whole of the night to get established with the new environment. When you water immediately, take note, once you finish transplanting, you water it immediately. That water helps it to get acclimatized with that environment, putting its roots down. So before the sun will set back in the evening, you will rest assured that before the sun will set back tomorrow, the following morning, you will rest assured that the plant has established very well and it keeps growing. You water it again the following evening. At least for the next 3 days, you water it morning, evening, morning, evening, morning, evening. Before you know, you see that the plant is established, growing well back, as if it still contains nourishment. Then it starts establishing. Then afterwards, you supply your nutrient to it. When you supply your nutrient to it, then you actually control your pests and do some other things. You do the normal things you need to do. You control your pests. So when you continue with this process, then you can see that, your plant is actually giving you what it should give you, and it's actually doing wonderfully well. So with all this thing now, if you put this thing together, having that good result is inevitable. You surely have the result, because what your plant is worth taking care of. A very good example is when you have a newborn baby. If the newborn baby is well fed, you will see it in the baby's growth. When the baby is growing, the baby will growing very well. The baby will growing. You will see the baby is healthy. You know that this baby is well taken care of. But if you don't feed the baby well, you will notice that this baby is not really well taken care of. The same thing applicable to our plants. A plant that you nurture well will give you that result you're expecting. But a plant you do not nurture well will not give you that result. So at Solocar Multiventures Limited, we want you to know that we want you to have that good result. And that's why we are doing our best. It might be little. We want you to know that you can actually have good results by putting these informations together one after the other. They are not strange. They are not different. It's not something new. It's what you know. But putting it together and doing it well will make you achieve that result. And as Solocar Multiventures Limited, we are taking our time to actually share this little knowledge with you so that you can actually get the best out of your farm. Because we know when you are fine, when you are happy, we are happy as well too. Once again, I want to say a very big thank you to you for staying tuned to this channel today. I want to tell you we love you and we want you to make the best out of your farm, and that's why we are here. My name remains Mark Oluwafemi, your regular host on this TV show for Solocar Multiventures Limited. Thank you.
Bàbá Sídí, ọ̀rẹ́ mi, níbi táyé lajú dé yìí ló tún roko àrógbá kéèké.
Wọ́n rò ó ti sú mi, mo ti fi kó tó ẹ̀mẹ́ta lọ́dún
yìí. Níbo ló ti wá ra kẹ́míkà tiẹ̀?
A ní lọ́dọ̀ àwọn tí wọ́n máa ń to kẹ́míkà sí ẹgbẹ́ títì ibẹ̀ mo rà.
Ọmọ ṣe o, àgbárí bíjà tuntun kí o tò.
Kàṣà.
Sórí, o ò tí gbọ́n pa Solocar ń tiẹ̀. Solocar nìkan ní ta ojúlówó kẹ́míkà. Tó o bá dọ́dọ̀ rẹ̀ kò sírú kẹ́míkà tó wá tó rí. Kí ni jẹ́ èpò níwájú kẹ́míkà Solocar?
Ṣé lóòótọ́? Ṣé lóòótọ́?
Òótọ́ ni mo sọ fún ọ. Wo, má jẹ́ lọ.
Mo rí gbogbo rẹ̀.
Kẹ́míkà Solocar.
Solocar.
Bẹ́ẹ̀. Kẹ́míkà Solocar, kẹ́míkà tó dáa ni.
Solocar.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni.
Kẹ́míkà Solocar.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni.
Dákun ọ̀rẹ́ mi. Níbo ni iléeṣẹ́ wọn wà bí ṣọ́ọ̀bù wọn níbi tí wọ́n ti ń ta tèmi náà ti lè ra?
Amúnigun Ògùnpa náà ni.
Ògùnpa ń bẹ̀rù.
Nọ́mbà 57.
Nọ́mbà 57.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni.
Amúnigun Ògùnpa.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni. Tọ́ ọ bá ti débẹ̀ ó ti rí ilé wọn báyìí. Wọ́n kàn wọ ọbẹ̀ lọ mú yìí tó wù ọ́.
Ọ̀rẹ́ mi.
Àgbẹ̀ ti di rọrùn.
Tèmi ti dá lọ́dún yìí.